today we are doing lesson 2, Sumerian sentences, Sumerian syntax, the nominal chain, and the verbal chain. We're going to go through this relatively quickly. Most of the hard stuff, believe it or not, we knocked out in lesson 1, which if you haven't watched yet, I will put a link to it in the video description, possibly in the comment section if I remember, and you can get to it right here at this link. And of course, the link to this lesson will be in the video description. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or you're trying to find this, you can go to SumerianAstrology.com. All of this information is really easy to find on that website. In this lesson, we are going to be covering grammatical cases used in Sumerian sentences, word order in Sumerian sentences, nominal chains and their elements, and verbal chains and their elements. Verbal chains in particular are a little on the complicated side. They're one of the most difficult parts of learning Sumerian. We're going to cover those in great detail in a later lesson, but we are going to introduce you to all of these concepts briefly in this lesson. Some of the helpful terms that will make this lesson a little bit easier. Agent, which is usually the subject of the sentence. It refers to the noun causing the action in a sentence. Case marker, which is a particle suffixed to a noun to indicate its grammatical role in a sentence. In other words, a postposition as opposed to a preposition. And for the most part, they communicate the same ideas. Copula, a simple verb expressing being, usually a form of was, is, or will be. Dimensional infix, which we're really not going to talk too much about this time around, but it does come up. So I did put a definition in here in case you come to it later and you want to see what we're referring to. It's a particle within the verbal chain referring to the comitative, ablative, dative, locative, or terminative case markers in the nominal chain. In other words, the dimensional cases. Impersonal, personal is down here. You can see it down here. It's actually easier if we talk about this first. So Sumerian doesn't have animate and inanimate in the traditional sense. It's better described as personal and impersonal. A personal noun refers to a deity or most people, and an impersonal noun refers to pretty much everything else or anybody else. That includes humans, such as slaves and enemies and anybody that you might want to insult or speak disparagingly of. Infix, a particle within the verbal chain referring to elements within the nominal chain. If you're not sure what those are yet, don't worry, we will discuss it. Modal prefix, a particle prefixed to a verb or verbal chain, usually indicating ability, obligation, necessity, or permission. The nominal chain is a string of nouns, adjectives, pronouns, case markers, and other nonverbal elements, providing a complete idea about the subjects and objects in a sentence. The patient refers to the noun experiencing the action in a sentence. So if I built the house, then the house is what is experiencing the building. The house is the patient, whereas I am the agent. I'm the one causing it. Syntax, the order of words in a sentence. Verbal chain, a string of prefixes, infixes, and suffixes attached to the verb to provide additional information about the action. The lesson vocabulary, I'm not going to go through this. Feel free to go through it when you get a chance. I did, if you watch lesson 1, you will notice that there were all of the vocabulary options were in here. I did go through, I haven't done this for lesson 3 yet. I may have done it for this one, but I went through and I kind of minimized these a little bit. You're just going to see the definitions that actually apply to this lesson or previous lessons. The reason I did that is because it was just really hard on the eyes. And if you are doing these lessons on your phone, it kind of made it a little bit harder to see everything. So I just went through and simplified it a little bit. I don't think I've done this for lesson 3 yet. Now, if you want to see all of the detailed definitions, you can always go to the online Sumerian dictionary, which is linked pretty much everywhere on my website and within each lesson. And as you can see, all of the definitions are listed in here. I am working on creating an English to Sumerian dictionary, but it is a work in progress and you just have to be patient with me. Kind of the deal breaker on that one, which is part of the reason why I decided to minimize these, is if you can see in lesson, I think it's lesson 3, we have these up, we have 3, and it means all of these things, which is a lot, and it fills up the space. So we don't need to know all of those right now. We just needed a couple of them. Grammatical cases in Sumerian sentences. A case is a grammatical category which helps identify the role a word plays in a sentence. But you don't need to memorize all of these right now. You'll want to get acquainted with them because we will be encountering these a lot. The absolutive case is the standard unaltered case of a noun. It does not have a case marker. The ergative case indicates the agent. So if I built a house, I am the agent. The noun doing the action as in performed by. The building of the house was performed by me. The genitive case indicates origin or derivation as in of. Locative. The locative case indicates where something is happening as in or at, like at home or technically on the internet. By the way, if you already speak some Sumerian or you are proficient in Sumerian and you're yelling at me on the other side of the screen because I'm not going into all of the details right now, we're starting from here in the simplest form possible, and we will expand on these later. The dative case indicates motion towards someone, as in to or for a person. There is also a directive case, which indicates motion toward a thing. You don't see it as much. I didn't put it in here for that reason, but you may come across that, but technically we could probably use the dative case for that too. The terminative case indicates a final destination, as in to a place, as in I'm going to the city. Comitative indicates group action, as in with. I'm going to the city with her or him or whatever. Ablative indicates removal or separation from something. In that sense, it also acts as the instrumental case, but I don't have a separate instrumental in here because you don't see it as much and there aren't strict rules with it. Again, if you already speak a little Sumerian or you're familiar with some of these, you may also recognize that there are, depending on who you talk to, more cases than this or fewer cases than this, but these are the major ones and these are the ones that we are going to be starting out with. And finally, the equative case, which indicates similarities such as like or as in shining like the sun. So each of these cases has a little case marker that comes after it, except the absolutive case, which is obviously the 0 ending over here. The ergative is marked by a, genitive is marked by a, the locative is marked by a. Most of the time, there are exceptions to these, and we will talk about those. The dative case is marked by ra. The directive case, which I do have listed in here for some reason, is marked by a, or the letter E, but a. The terminative case is marked by she, that's she 3. The comitative case is marked with da. The ablative case is marked by ta, and the equative case is marked by gin 7 in most of the new literatures. Some of the older literature has it listed otherwise, but it doesn't matter. For these purposes, we're going to be using gin 7, and it's usually what you're going to come across anyways nowadays. For the most part, indicating the case is as simple as suffixing one of these case markers to the noun. Said for the most part. We will get there. Lugale, performed by the king. Nin ak, of the queen, although this is in brackets here because you're not going to see the ak unless it's followed by some other case marker or some other word, but we'll talk about that probably in the next lesson. A, in or at the house, or technically I guess on the house. To, for the man. A gal a, this is to for the place. Again, I have the directive in here. Irishe, to toward the city. Munusta, with the woman. Kurta, from the mountain, and urgin, like the dog. Again, Sumerian doesn't have articles, really. I mean, there are some cases where we could say it's acting like an article. Talk about that later too. But I have these listed in here. I won't do this later. I'm just doing it for now, having the brackets in here to illustrate that we don't actually put those in there. In Sumerian, it's just like dog. Fun with cuneiform. Now, I know that I told you in the introduction to this simple Sumerian grammar that we would not be focusing on cuneiform. That does not mean that we're not going to be using cuneiform, learning cuneiform, reading it. I'm not really going to make you write it, but we're still going to be using it. I still want you to see it. I want you to get used to it. And you want to do that too. Depending on the period, cuneiform looks really different. So to start you off, we're going to start with just a few different words. Cuneiform developed over thousands of years from pictographic images to the complex wedge-shaped signs we know and love today. While many of the late-stage cuneiform words are unrecognizable from their pictographic predecessors, some still resemble the original word. For example, the Kur sign resembles a tiny mountain range, whereas the Munus sign is a literal depiction of female genitalia, which is this one down here. Here are some examples. This was the original, and as you can see, they were written vertically down here. This one looks like a little guy. Here's his little head. Here's this little tummy. Eventually, these signs got shifted, so they tipped them this way. And then as time went on, it started to look a little bit different, especially this Assyrian over here looks a lot different from the original. So this is what I mean when I say we are not going to be focusing on cuneiform because it's its whole thing. All of the cuneiform that I have in here is the standard Unicode cuneiform symbols. You can copy and paste this into a browser and you should be able to find something. So can you make out the images in the cuneiform signs below? If you have any trouble, again, tilt your head to the left and you can see this one doesn't really look like a little house to me. Not anymore. This does look like a little mountain. I think so. Yes, sort of the little guy. We can see the Manu sign here. And then the Uru sign, which is the sign for a city. Looks like some little blocks, little city blocks. Okay. Word order in Sumerian sentences or Sumerian syntax. Like English, words in Sumerian sentences follow a particular pattern or syntax. If you don't speak another language besides English, you may not know that some languages do not have a particular order that you have to follow. In English, English, the usual order of the words is subject, verb, object, or SVO, which you'll see it a lot. As in, the king built the palace. Here we have the king is the subject, he built, which is the verb, the palace, the object. Subject, verb, object. However, in Sumerian, the normal word order is subject, object, verb. Lugale egal bandu. The king built the palace. Literally, king, which is the subject, lugal, by, case marker A, palace, egal, palace, object, it, he built, ba andu, the verb or the verbal chain. In Sumerian, subject, object, verb, sentence structure is better understood as agent, patient, verb or APV, wherein the agent causes the action. I built the house. I'm the agent. The house is the patient. It experiences the action. In the sentence, the king built the palace. The king is the agent because he caused the palace to be built. And the palace is the patient because it experiences the being built. Whether a sentence has an agent will be important later. For now, it's helpful to get comfortable with the APV concept. Egal ba'andu. The palace was built, or just palace was built. In this example, we don't know who built the palace, and honestly, we might not care, might not need to know. The nominal and verbal chains. The sentence lugale egal ba'andu has two parts. A nominal chain, lugale egal, king by, house great, which is literally just palace. A is house, gal is great, so big house or palace. And it has a verbal chain. Ba'andu was built. Literally, it, he built. The nominal chain, which is this one right here, provides all the information we need about the nouns in the sentence. Whereas the verbal chain, this one right here, has all the information we need about the action, including who did it, to what, and where, all of these things. Verbal chain gets pretty long. Again, we will cover this in more depth later. Nominal chains in Sumerian sentences. The nominal chain comes first in the sentence, and the word order is the noun, then the adjective, then the pronoun, the plural marker, the case marker, and the copula. If they have these things, they might not have a lot of these. And I just abbreviated them down here for you because this looks intimidating. This not quite as much. Again, you don't need all of these, but if you do have them, they should pretty much come in this order. Now, sometimes they don't. Sometimes words are moved around for personal style or dramatic emphasis or whatever. But for the most part, they're going to follow this order. Dumune, sons. As you can see here, this is a nominal chain, and it is literally dumu, which is son, plus the na plural marker. And in this case, the e is dropped. You don't need it after a vowel. So it's just dumune, sons. Here we have urgalhum, my big dog. Literally dog, big. My, ur is dog, gal is the adjective, and ruten is the possessive pronoun, my. Dingir shesh zunida, with your brother gods. Literally, God, brother, your plural, as opposed to your singular, with, as in the plural marker, with. Dingir shesh is brother, zu, pronoun, so on and so forth. Be aware that a pronoun may come before the adjective. Ezu, gala, your house is big. Literally, house your big is. House your big. And then we have this little repeated in here. And then the copula In the above construction, you'll notice a la between lugal and This is a topic that we'll cover in more depth later. But suffice to say, this is a meaningless la. It acts as a sort of spelling bridge between two of these words, which is gal and For now, just know that what this is trying to tell you is gal Verbal chains in Sumerian sentences. In my opinion, the verbal chain is the most difficult part of learning Sumerian because there is so much information in it. We will go into so very much depth later on. For now, here are a few things that you're going to want to remember. First and foremost, Sumerian verbs in a sentence must be modified. For this reason, you will almost always see a verb with a prefix. If you don't, probably because the text was destroyed or damaged or somebody was asleep on the job. Idu, I built it. Edu, you built it. Indu, he or she built it. Indush, they, personal, built it. And ibdu, they, impersonal, built it. Remember, personal are most humans and all deities, and impersonal is going to be any type of inanimate object, person that we might speak of disparagingly. I mean, we wouldn't now, but back then they may have, and things, and pretty much everything else that is not a person or deity. In all of the above constructions, you'll notice a few things about the verbal prefix. First of all, it's going to vary depending on who is doing the action, whether it's I, you, he, she, they, or a different they. It provides information about the agent, the person who's doing things. It provides information about the other stuff too, but definitely the agent in this case. That one's always going to be stuck right next to the verb in the chain. And also, it creates a self-contained sentence where no nominal chain is needed. Technically, if I don't want to, because I'm running out of space on my clay tablet, or it's obvious from the rest of the text, I can just say Indu. He built it. He built the house. The king built it. The man built it. Some he out there built it. What is it? What did he build? Hopefully it tells us that somewhere else in the text. Otherwise, we're going to be confused. Verbal chain order. Like nominal chains, verbal chains follow a particular order. Note how only the first term modal prefix, which is down here, modal prefix, is listed as a prefix. The rest are referred to as infixes, as they are found within the verbal chain and not in front of it. However, a verbal chain can start with an infix. And I'm differentiating between these because some grammars and Sumerian linguists opt not to use the word infix at all. They just refer to all of these as prefixes. But I like infix. It's a fun word. And this is going to make so much more sense later. I want to have it somewhere. If you want to pop back over to this lesson, I did put these over here on the side. If you need to jump around, you can absolutely do that. First comes the modal prefix, then the dative infix. So if I am giving a house that the king built, if the king is going to give it to someone, that's the dative infix. The dimensional infix is going to be one of these. The locative infix comes next, and I have it as a lock term infix in here because in some cases it's better understood as a lock term infix, but we'll talk about this more later. The ergative infix is going to come just before the root of the word, and again, that is the person who's doing the action. So the agent infix is going to go right before the root of the verb. Again, modal, dative, dimensional, lock term, and then ergative. Like the nominal chain, you don't need all of these elements in the verbal chain. Observe the following verbal chain. Inani indu. Notice how each of these infixes refers to information we would probably find somewhere in the nominal chain. But again, we don't need it if it's already in here and it's obvious from the context or some other way that it's obvious. If this is too hard on the eyes, it's really just trying to tell us this. Ina indu. He, she built it for him, her. And the reason these are listed as he, she, or him, her, not because they were very progressive about their gender. The same word is used for he and she and him and her, at least as far as these pronouns were concerned. Wow, wouldn't have that made 2023 so much easier on all of us? Infix meaning. This I up here is a conjugational prefix only. It does not refer to any information in the nominal chain. This na, however, refers to who, whatever we're building, who it was being built for. So this is the dative infix. This ni refers to where this was built. Was it built in the city, in the country, in a foreign land, in the mountains, wherever it was built? This is what it's telling us. It was built there, somewhere else. This in refers to who built it. As you can see, it's the agent. It's right before the main root word, which is do 3. And really, I don't have it in here, and I'm not sure why I didn't do that. All this is really trying to tell you is N, N, and N. But we can't just have an N. We have to have a vowel with it. So this is how the vowels show up in this particular verbal chain. Yes, we will talk about this later. Lesson 2 summary. Fantastic. You are so very far on your way to learning Sumerian. I'm not joking. Literally the hardest stuff is out of the way now. Don't worry if you still feel overwhelmed. We're tackling the hardest parts first so we can just be done with them and everything's going to get easier from here. To summarize this lesson, we learned about the grammatical case markers, which are right here again, word order in Sumerian, which is going to be subject, object, verb, or agent, patient, verb. Pretty much going to just talk about it as though it is agent, patient, verb, nominal chains, and verbal chains. If you want to do the exercises with me right now, make sure you get ready to pause. I will go through these slowly, but not slow enough for you to actually probably answer the questions. So you're going to want to push pause. Complete the exercises using information and vocabulary from this in the previous lesson. Remember, you can see a full list of the vocabulary words in the online Sumerian dictionary, which is linked right here if you need it. And all of the helpful terms and definitions, the grammatical definitions and everything, they will be listed in the helpful terms, which can be reached here. Okay, true or false? Case markers indicate the role a noun plays in a sentence. All Sumerian sentences have an agent. To be considered grammatically correct, verbs in Sumerian must be modified. Fill in the blank. Use one of the following options to complete the sentence. I'm just going to read these to you with all of the options. So you can either just select a number for them, or you can possibly determine which one sounds more natural. They, personal, built it. Is it inanush, induush, inmulush, inurush, or inzuush? Or he, she made them to stand. Is it ba'anak geesh, ba'anda geesh, ba'angir geesh, Ba'ansud ge'esh, or Ba'anzi ge'esh. Or with your brother gods, is it Dingir shesh zune she, Dingir shesh zune da, Dingir shesh zune e, or Dingir shesh zune ta. Translate Sumerian into English. Urgal, Ninzura, Dumu huneda, Lugale egal indu, Lue munusra iria e inaindu. By the way, this right here, lue, is not something you're going to see very much in this grammar. You'll see it some places when you are translating Sumerian. Technically, this isn't exactly grammatically correct. We're just using this a in here, so you know that lu is the agent. So when you are translating this one, do not worry too much about the precise word order. If you can get the basic translation, you're doing pretty good. Translate English into Sumerian. 1, my big dog. 2, from the city. 3, your young son. 4, with your brothers. 5, you built it. Spot the mistake. So in these ones, you just have to figure out what's wrong with it. Da munus, with the woman. A tur, palace. Nanuhu dinghir, my god Nana. Translate cuneiform. Now for these, I can't read them to you because then you just know what they are. You're going to have to look at them. Bring it all together. In the following sentence, identify the following. First, here is the sentence. Lugale ninra iria e inaindu. The king built the house for the queen in the city. 1, the nominal chain. 2, the verbal chain. 3, the agent. 4, the patient. 5, the location. 6, the object. 7, the conjugational prefix. 8, the dative infix. And 9, the ergative infix. I know that's a lot, but I kind of want to torture you a little bit because it will help you learn these things much faster. All right, now we're going to go ahead and jump to the answers. If you're not ready, obviously you got to pause or go back. Everything's time-stamped, hopefully, so you can go back and forth. But I am going to read the answers to you now. So if you're not ready, don't do this part. True or false, case markers indicate the role a noun plays in the sentence. That is true. All Sumerian sentences have an agent. No, they don't have an agent. Sometimes they don't even have a nominal chain. Sometimes it's just the verbal chain. To be considered grammatically correct, verbs in Sumerian must be modified. That is true. Fill in the blank. The correct answer for they personal built was B, do. So in duush. And for the second one, for he, she made them to stand, the answer was Z, ba'anzi geesh. And finally, we had with your brother gods, ingir shesh zuneda. Yeah, they're listed under 1, 2, 3. I don't know why down there they're listed as A, B, C. So translate Sumerian into English. Urgal, big dog. Ninzura, 2 or for your queen. Dumune huda, with my sons. Lugale egal indu, the palace was built by the king, or some version thereof. The king caused the palace to be built. However you want to write it, it's fine. Lue munusra iria e inaindu, the man built a house in the city for the woman, or again, some variation thereof. Translate English into Sumerian. 1, my big dog, urgalhu. 2, from the city, irita. 3, your young son, dumuturzu. 4, with your brothers, shesh zunida. You built it, edu. Spot the mistake, da munus. This is the incorrect word order. It should be munus da, so woman with. Etur, palace, is the incorrect adjective on here. Should be egal. Danahu dingir should be nana dingir hu. And translate the cuneiform or identify the sign. I probably could have put that too. This is the A sign or the A2 sign. This was the Lu sign, which is man. This one's house. And this is the Aries sign or Uru sign. Usually it's listed under the Uru sign. So there we go. And bring it all together. Lugale ninra iriae inaindu. The king built the house for the queen in the city. The nominal chain here is Lugale ninra iriae. The verbal chain is ina indu. When you're trying to locate the verbal chain in a sentence, when you say big, long string of words, try to find the root word first and then go from there. At least that's what I do. Seems helpful. Not always when you're reading cuneiform, but when you're reading the transliterated version. The agent here is lugal, which is why we have the ergative case marker attached to it. The patient here is a, right here. It's the house. It's experiencing the being built. The location is the city, iri. The conjugational prefix is right here, this I. And the dative infix is na. And the ergative infix, which again goes right before the root verb, is in. And that's pretty much it for this lesson. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to write them in the comment section or email me directly. My contact information is listed all over my website, or you can email me at sumerianastrology@gmail.com. If you haven't already, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget, you can enter to win a free natal chart reading when you subscribe to my very rare but awesome newsletter. I'm still only at 2 newsletters in the last 2 years, so don't be afraid that you're going to get spammed by all of my awesome newsletters, because you're definitely not. I think that's pretty much it. Hopefully I will have lesson 3 is done. It's right here. So you can see we are doing Sumerian words. We are going to be covering nouns, pronouns, adjectives, verbs, copula. We are obviously going to be introducing you to these things. It's ready to go. As a matter of fact, I just posted lesson 4, Sumerian pronouns. We go into more depth on these, and we're already making Sumerian sentences, and seriously, you are well on your way to knowing everything there is to know about the Sumerian language. And yes, I am exaggerating a little bit. Like I said, like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.